Story 1. My best friend comforted me after my ex left me for her. 2 months after my ex dumped me with some vague excuse about needing to find himself, I finally let my best friend drag me to a house party. She'd been incredible through the whole breakup, showing up at my place with ice cream, letting me cry on her shoulder, telling me I deserved better. She kept saying he was an idiot for letting me go. The party was packed. I'd been dreading running into him, but after an hour of not seeing him, I started to relax. I was actually having a decent time when I went to grab my jacket from the bedroom where everyone had tossed their coats. That's when I saw my best friend's phone lighting up on the bed, half buried under someone's scarf. I grabbed it to hand it to her, but the preview of the text made me freeze. It was from my ex. The message preview said something about being sorry for earlier and that they needed to talk about us. Us? Oh no. My stomach dropped. I know I shouldn't have, but I picked up the phone. It was still unlocked from when she'd been using it. I opened their text thread. The messages went back weeks, before the breakup, way before. I scrolled up, my hands shaking. There were late-night conversations, inside jokes I didn't understand. Then I found it. Messages from the week before he dumped me. He was telling her he couldn't stop thinking about her, that he felt terrible but he didn't know what to do. She was telling him they couldn't do this to me, but they kept texting, every day. They kept texting while she held you as you cried, the audacity. The worst part was finding her messages from after the breakup. While I was sobbing in her arms about not understanding why he left, she was texting him things like, "This is killing me," and "I hate lying to her, but you were right, we can't tell her." I scrolled to their conversation from earlier that night. He'd asked if she thought enough time had passed. She'd said maybe they should wait another month to make it less obvious. Another month? Like waiting makes it any less disgusting? I put the phone back where I found it and walked out to the living room. They were standing together by the kitchen, not touching but standing closer than friends should. The way they were looking at each other. I don't know how I'd missed it before. I walked over and handed her the phone, told her she'd left it in the bedroom. When she saw her unlocked messages were still open, her face went white. I looked at both of them and said I was heading out. My ex started to say something, but I cut him off. Told them they should probably wait that extra month like they planned, more believable that way. That moment when they realised you knew everything. Chef's kiss. I left before either of them could respond. I blocked their numbers that night. A mutual friend told me a few weeks later that they were together. I wasn't surprised. Looking back, there were so many little moments that should have tipped me off. The way she always defended him even when he was clearly wrong. How she'd get quiet whenever I talked about our future plans. The inside jokes they shared that I was never part of. The betrayal from her hurt worse than losing him. But at least I finally understood why he'd been so vague about the breakup. It's hard to tell your girlfriend the real reason you're leaving is because you've fallen for her best friend. Story 2. I brought my friend's girlfriend to meet the friends who were secretly trashing her. My buddy was throwing a house party, and the main event was everyone finally meeting his new girlfriend. He'd been with her for a few months and was completely head over heels, but our friend group was pretty skeptical. He has this habit of becoming a chameleon in new relationships. Last year he was suddenly a hardcore vegan who only wore hemp, and this time he'd started dressing preppy and talking about getting into sailing. We were worried he was losing himself again. Hemp to yacht club, that's quite the personality journey. I was one of the first people to have a real conversation with her, and honestly, she was awesome. She was genuinely funny, smart, and when she looked at my friend, you could just tell she really cared about him. I remember feeling this huge sense of relief, thinking maybe this was the one he could actually be himself with. About an hour later, she asked if there was a place she could put her jacket. I told her I'd show her to the spare bedroom they were using as a coat room. As we walked down the quiet hallway, we started hearing voices getting louder behind the closed door. It wasn't angry, more like a loud, drunken discussion. I figured it was just a few of our friends getting into a stupid debate about movies or something. I reached for the doorknob, but we both froze as the voices became crystal clear. It wasn't a debate. It was a gossip session. About her. That moment when your stomach just drops. It was our core friend group, their words slurring a little bit from the beer. We heard one of them say, "I just don't buy it, man. She's way too polished. It's like she's playing a part." Then another voice, one I recognised as a guy who had been perfectly nice to her 30 minutes earlier, chimed in. "Totally. She's a total social climber. You can see her scanning the room. My buddy is just her next project. The comments were just a spiral of petty drunken cruelty. Too polished? So basically her crime was being put together and nice. I risked a look over at her. Her face had gone completely white, her eyes wide with a kind of quiet shock. She didn't cry or gasp. She just brought a single finger to her lips, gave a tiny shake of her head, and then gently tugged on my sleeve. We backed away from the door without making a sound. Once the party noise washed over us again, she turned to me, her voice trembling just a little. She said she had a sudden, awful headache and was going to head home, and asked me not to say anything. I felt completely powerless and just nodded. I walked her to the front door. As she was pulling it open, my buddy came over, beaming, asking where she was going. At that exact horrible moment, the door to the spare room swung open. Two of the guys who had been talking the loudest stumbled out into the hall, laughing. My buddy saw them and his grin got even bigger. "Hey, perfect timing. I wanted you all to properly meet her." Nope, this cannot be happening right now. The two guys froze, their laughter dying on their lips as they saw who was standing at the door. Behind them, the rest of the group from the room began to trickle out, the sound of their chatter fading into a dead, horrifying silence as they all took in the scene. I have never in my entire life experienced 5 seconds of silence that felt so heavy. Then the girlfriend did something I'll never forget. She straightened her posture, pulled her shoulders back, and gave a small, brittle smile that didn't reach her eyes. She looked right past my buddy, her gaze fixed on the silent group in the hallway. "It was so nice to meet everyone," she said, her voice perfectly even. "My boyfriend has told me so much about you." That subtle emphasis on so much. She let them know she knew without saying a word about it. Absolute class. She then turned to my completely stunned friend, told him her headache was getting worse, kissed him on the cheek, and walked out the door without another word. We all just stood there in the crushing silence, listening to the sound of her car starting and driving away. Story 3. I found out my sister's boyfriend was a paid actor. What's the most awkward thing you've walked in on at a party? This happened at our annual family barbecue last summer. My sister had been getting grief from everyone for years about being single. You know how families are. Every gathering turned into an interrogation about her love life. So when she showed up with this guy, everyone was thrilled. He was charming, maybe a bit too charming. Laughed at all the right moments, asked my dad about his fishing stories, complimented my mum's potato salad. But something felt off. He kept mixing up details, told my uncle he worked in marketing, then later mentioned to my cousin he was in sales. When my cousin pointed it out, he just laughed and said he'd recently switched departments. Smooth save, buddy. About an hour in, I went inside to grab more ice from the garage freezer. As I was digging through the frozen hamburger patties, I heard voices from the mudroom. The door was cracked and I could see the boyfriend in there, hunched over his phone. He was scrolling through what looked like notes, muttering to himself. I caught fragments. Uncle Jim likes fishing. Aunt Carol divorced twice. Cousin plays guitar. Then I saw the header on his phone screen. Sarah's family, BBQ notes. Wait, he has actual study notes? Like flashcards for meeting the family? My stomach dropped. I must have shifted because the ice maker rattled. He spun around, saw me through the crack, and his face went white. "Hey," he said, forcing a smile. "Just checking some work emails." "Those didn't look like emails," I said quietly. He started talking fast, something about helping my sister prep for the party because she was nervous. But his hands were shaking as he shoved his phone in his pocket. That's when my sister appeared in the doorway behind him. She took one look at us and knew something was wrong. "What's going on?" The guy tried to play it off, but I just looked at her and said, "He's got notes about our family on his phone." Her face crumbled. Not crying, just defeated. The guy started to explain, but she cut him off. "Just go, Marcus, please." She didn't even try to fight it. He looked between us, realized the game was up, and muttered something about this being a mistake. He grabbed his keys from the counter and left through the side door without another word. My sister slumped against the doorframe. She admitted everything. He was a theatre student she knew from her yoga class. She'd offered him $100 to pretend to be her boyfriend for the day because she couldn't face another family event alone. They'd spent the whole week preparing, going over everyone's names and interests. A theatre student. The charm thing suddenly makes sense. We stood there in the mudroom, the party sounds drifting in from outside. I told her it was okay, that I got it. We agreed to say he'd gotten food poisoning. More believable than a family emergency. When we went back outside, my aunt immediately asked where the boyfriend went. I said he wasn't feeling well, probably the shrimp dip. Everyone bought it. My mum even packed up leftovers for my sister to take to him later. The mum packing leftovers for the fake boyfriend. God, that's depressing. The weird part? After that, the family actually laid off about her dating life. Maybe they sensed something, or maybe they just finally realised they'd been pushing too hard. Either way, she never had to hire another fake boyfriend. Though she did end up dating a different guy from that yoga class 6 months later. A real one this time. I made sure to check. Story 4. My whole family fell for my cousin's hired girlfriend. I also have a rental girlfriend/boyfriend story. You have to understand, my aunt and uncle have one mission in life: to see my cousin married. Every family event was an ambush. They'd corner him with a new woman they'd found, someone's niece, a daughter from their bowling league, whatever. It was relentless. So when my cousin showed up at my aunt's birthday party with a woman on his arm, the entire family practically short-circuited. He introduced her as his girlfriend, and she was impressive. Charming. Laughed at all my uncle's terrible golf jokes. My aunt looked ready to start planning the wedding right there. But as the night went on, something felt off. My cousin wasn't relaxed. He kept watching her like a director watching an actor. And she was a little too polished, her stories flowing too smoothly. That's a weird way to watch your girlfriend. Then it happened. My aunt was grilling her about their relationship, and the woman started telling this story about how my cousin used to walk his childhood golden retriever every morning before school. The family nodded along, charmed. But I just stood there confused. My cousin has been terrified of dogs his entire life, like crossing the street to avoid a chihuahua terrified. And they never had a dog growing up, just a mean cat that hated everyone. She panicked and picked the one thing he's terrified of. I caught my cousin's eye across the room. He'd gone completely pale. That moment when you watch someone's cover story fall apart in real time. Later, I found him on the back deck getting some air. Before I could say anything, he just looked at me and said, "You know about the dog thing, don't you?" He tried to play it off at first, but I just waited. Finally, he cracked. He'd hired her. Some service that provides convincing dates for events. He was at his breaking point with the matchmaking, and couldn't face another holiday alone. The thing is, he'd told her the truth. That he was scared of dogs. That they had a cat. But when my aunt started pressing her about their perfect relationship, she panicked and invented the golden retriever story on the spot, probably thinking it sounded more wholesome. Wait, there's a whole service for this, like an app. Just then, she slid the patio door open. She saw our faces and immediately understood. She actually apologized to him, saying she shouldn't have improvised. Then she turned to me with this wry smile and said if I ever needed a +1 for Christmas, she'd give me a returning customer discount. At least she's professional about it. I couldn't help it. I started laughing. Honestly, after years of watching him suffer through these ambushes, I got it completely. I told them their secret was safe. We all walked back inside together. My aunt immediately grabbed my arm, tears in her eyes as she watched them across the room. She whispered about how she knew he'd find the right one eventually, how natural they looked together. Then she said it. You just can't fake a connection like that. The aunt with literal tears watching the hired actress. This is too perfect. I just smiled and nodded. What else could I do? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check out this video next.